Today, we're going to dive into a really powerful philosophical idea called teleology. Now, I know it sounds a little academic, but it really just boils down to a simple but huge shift in how we look at the world. It's about understanding things not just by how they were made, but by what they're for. Okay, take a look at this. It's a chair. Simple enough, right? But how do you really understand what this thing is? Do you immediately think about the wood, the person who built it? Or is there a much more direct, more intuitive answer that pops into your head first? So, you've got two totally different ways of thinking about it. On one hand, you have the causal view. That explains how the chair came to be. You know, the wood, the nails, the whole assembly process. But the teleological view, that gets right to the heart of the matter. It asks, why does this chair even exist? And the answer is simple. It's for sitting. That's its purpose. And that right there, that's teleology in a nutshell. It's this core idea that to really get what something is, you have to know its purpose, its end, its goal. It's about shifting your question from how did this happen to what is this for? It's the philosophy of why. Now, this way of thinking isn't new. In fact, it has some seriously deep roots, taking us all the way back to the ancient Greek philosopher Aristotle. He came up with this brilliant framework for understanding pretty much everything, and it gives us a perfect blueprint for asking why. Aristotle gave us what he called the four causes, which are really just four ways to explain something. Let's take a house. First, you've got the material cause. What's it made of? Bricks, wood, that kind of stuff. Then the formal cause. What's its form? That's the architect's blueprint. The efficient cause is who or what actually made it, the builders. And then you get to the big one for our conversation, the final cause. What is it for? Its purpose? To provide shelter. See that final cause? That is the absolute heart of teleology. For Aristotle, you couldn't possibly understand the house if you didn't get its purpose. It's so much more than just a pile of bricks and a design. It's a shelter. The why is what gives all the other hows their meaning. Okay, so this framework makes total sense for things we make, right? A chair, a house, a car. But what happens when we try to apply the same logic to the natural world? Well, this is where things get really fascinating and a little tricky, especially when we talk about biology. I mean, we say things like this all the time, don't we? They sound completely natural. It feels so intuitive to say wings developed for flying, or that our eyes evolved so that we could see. That language is just soaked in purpose. But is that what's really going on? Well, from a modern scientific perspective, not quite. And this is a really critical distinction to make. Evolution doesn't have a mind. It has no forward-thinking plan. There are no goals, no intentions. It's a process that reacts to the environment. It isn't trying to accomplish anything. Let's break that down, side by side. The teleological kind of thinking suggests a designer with a plan. But the evolutionary process, that's more like a filter. It just keeps what works. Eyes weren't made for seeing. Instead, random genetic variations that just happened to improve sight helped an organism survive. So the trait stuck around because it gave them an edge. It's a subtle shift in wording, but it's a massive shift in thinking. So if it's not a great fit for evolution, where does teleology really shine? Well, as it turns out, it's baked right into our own psychology. We are, by our very nature, purpose-seeking creatures. Our brains are basically teleological machines. Just look at how we talk about our own lives and our society. Everything is framed by its goal. We study to pass an exam. We work to earn money. We build entire school systems to educate. We create complex laws to maintain order. Our entire world is built on this foundation of purpose. We are constantly answering the why question for ourselves. I absolutely love this analogy. Having a sense of purpose doesn't magically change the facts of your life. That's the terrain. But what it does do is give you a direction. It acts like a map, helping you navigate all the challenges, make tough decisions, and ultimately find meaning in the whole journey. All right, so let's pull all these threads together. We've seen that maybe teleology can be a bit misleading in science, but it's absolutely essential for understanding ourselves, our actions, and the world we've all built. So why does asking why matter so much? Think about it like this. Picture a long line of dominoes. A causal explanation tells you how one domino knocks over the next. It's all about physics, momentum, force. But the teleological explanation, it asks the bigger question. Why was this whole line of dominoes set up in the first place? It gets at the intention, the goal behind the entire chain reaction. Because at the end of the day, that's what it all comes down to. The how is just the mechanics. It's understanding the why, the purpose, that gives the entire process its meaning. Without a why, the how is just, well, it's just a sequence of empty events. So I'll just leave you with this question to chew on. Think about your own daily actions, your routines, your biggest goals. You probably know how you do them, but maybe take a moment to ask yourself that teleological question. What's the why behind your how?